Hello and welcome back to Scale Down Customs. On the workbench today is going to be a kit that Revell was nice enough to send over to me for free for me to review, with the only instructions that I give them an honest review. And this is as you can see, the 1971 Olds 442. So I'd like to thank Revell for sending me this kit to review for them. So probably for this build, since this is just going to be a review, I'm going to mostly focus on building this car up. So I'm not going to show every aspect of building the car. So let's open her up and see what we got. Very nice decal sheet. You got some wood grain paneling, some tire decals. Nice. Of course, the hood stripes, some body stripes. Those decals look really clean. I like those a lot. These longer ones are going to be a challenge to put on, so just only because they're so long. But yeah, that sheet looks really good. I like that. A little bit of a description about the car. I always like that. The paint code call out with the actual Revell paint code if you want to use their paints. It even tells you the mixing percentages for emerald green if you want to do that. And then the part number listing with the description or the part name. I really like that because sometimes I don't know exactly what a part is, and it's nice to actually have a description of what it is. And then just the basic instruction sheet with their part number and paint call out and order of assembly. And then of course the decal application guide on the back. Nice. I do like Revell kits. I think they're your biggest bang for your buck. Of course there are more expensive and higher quality kits out there, but you really get the best value for your money with a Revell kit. So I'm excited to build this one up. So let's look at some of these pieces a little more closely. Chrome parts look really good. A lot of detail, very minimal flashing, which on the chrome parts is really important because if you're going to keep the kit chrome, you want as little flashing as possible for cleanup. But I usually end up stripping the chrome off so that I can clean up the sprue mount points better. And I don't know, in my opinion, I think the kit chrome looks good, but it always looks a little like kit chrome. That's really clean. If you want to stay with the kit chrome, there's no problem with that. And like I said, those parts look really good for how small and detailed they are with minimal flashing. So, but I will probably be stripping the chrome off just because that's what I like to do with kit chrome. Again, so I can clean up the parts really good and tone down the chrome a little bit. But those look really good. Looks like it comes with some axle pins for the wheels. So if you want your wheels to roll, I usually don't like my wheels to roll because I don't need my model rolling off the shelf. But if you want to do that, that's a nice option. Keeps those wheels being able to move pretty smoothly. And another important thing is the glass. Now that looks really clean. Wow, that looks really good. Glass is another important point in my opinion, because a lot of times you'll get scratches and they just doesn't seem to be molded very well, and it's not super clear sometimes, but there is no scratches that I can see right out of the bag, and that is really clear. Wow, I really like how they've done that. That is really clean. Very nice. I'm going to put this back in the bag to keep it as clean as possible until I'm ready to start working on those pieces. I'm not going to go through every single piece right now. I'm just trying to kind of go through and get a general overview of how much flashing is on the pieces and kind of what the mold process is looking like, how severe the ejection pin marks are. A little bit of work is going to be needed on the underside of the fenders. These ones I'm not going to worry about because those are going to be covered up. But those aren't too bad. Those are actually pretty minimal. Very shallow, so that won't that's very nice because that's not going to take too much work to clean that up. So that's kind of what I was looking for. Very nice detail, very clean, very minimal flashing. All right, I'm liking this so far. This is quite encouraging actually. I'm excited. Yeah, those door cards look really, really good. And again, with those wood grain decals in there, that's going to look really, really sharp. That's some really nice detail on those door cards. Another thing to look for is a lot on these smaller rod parts, these smaller parts that have a really long, like an axle or something. You can kind of get a really good idea of the workmanship on those round pieces. If there's a really pronounced mold line on there, that'll give you an idea of what the build quality is going to be like for the rest of the parts. And that's looking really good, really smooth, not a very large mold line on that. So that's a good indicator. Very nice. And then let's take a look at the body, and then we'll start getting this kit together. Can feel the mold line a little bit on the top of this fender, which isn't a big deal. That's really, really typical for these model car kits, and that's right where you want it to be because that's going to be really easy to smooth off. And then the mold line comes back right here, and that is, you can barely feel that. That's going to take very minimal work to smooth that off. Panel lines are looking really shallow, so I'll be scribing those out a lot deeper. Some really nice detail molded in windshield wipers. Very, very nice detail. Very crisp, very clean, and again, very, very minimal flashing. I'm really not seeing a lot of flashing, if any at all. And the ejection pin marks again are very, very shallow, very mild. So those will take just a little bit of cleanup on those, but those aren't looking too bad. There's quite a lot of them on the headliner here. So that's going to take a little extra work to clean those up, but again, they're not that deep, so nice. All right, very, very clean. So far the body feels pretty square on the table as well, so that's good. I'm liking that. Tires are pretty small, okay tread pattern, pretty significant mold line through the middle of the tread. I usually sand down my tires anyway, so that'll again disappear with a little bit of sanding, but yeah, very nice. All right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to get all these parts off of the trees, cleaned up, sanded down, and into primer and ready for paint. But I like to do that. I like to take my parts off the sprues and get the sprue mount points cleaned up and then into primer. Oh, that's nice. You can do gives you a couple of different options for the center console, for the clutch or automatic. Nice. All right, so again, I'm just going to focus on building this car out. I'm going to move ahead with parts prep, and that includes getting the body sanded down, starting with a 600 grit sanding sponge from Tamiya, getting everything smoothed off into primer. Then I like to sand that down again and then reprime for painting. So I'm going to go ahead and do all that, and I'll check back in on this build as I'm going along. All right, so I got my body all sanded down, panel lines scribed out with my 0.2 millimeter scribing blade from Tamiya, and then I got my mistakes filled in with some of this Mr. Dissolve putty from Mr. Hobby. This stuff's actually pretty good. So I just dab my paintbrush in there and just kind of dab it in the spots I need to fill and let that dry, and then sand it down like regular putty. Be careful, there's a couple of low spots just off the A-pillar there on the front fender. You want to fill those in with a little bit of filler or putty or whatever you choose. Just beware of those, and that's really the only issue I have found with the body so far. Everything else it looks pretty squared away. All right, so we're ready for some primer. Again, my general procedure, coat of primer, and then I'll sand it down. I'll kind of block sand the whole car down just to make sure everything's nice and flat, especially the flat areas like the doors, the roof, the trunk, the hood, anything like that. And then I'll do one, maybe two more coats of primer, sand that down, and then we'll be ready for some paint. So I'm going to go do that, and I'll be back in a little bit. All right, I'm liking the detail on this kit. A couple things to watch out for, and you're only going to need to worry about this stuff if you're doing like competitions or anything. But there's some ejection pin marks. There's kind of a lot of them all the way around. So if you want to address those, you can fill them in with the putty of your choice, sand them down. Those aren't too bad. They're pretty easily accessible. A couple more on the hood, just in the corners. I already sanded those ones down. And then a little bit of copyright insignia on the chassis up underneath the rear axle and on the frame rail there. That one's easily sandable. That might be a little bit harder to get to, but again, you know, you're only going to need to worry about those things if you're entering these into judged competitions. Other than that, things are looking really good. So there are a couple of ejection pin marks up underneath the engine bay area, but the interior has the inner fenders as well, which covers that up. So that's kind of nice, but these have ejection pin marks as well. So as you can see, I filled those in with putty already, and I'll be sanding those down to cover up those with primer. These are easily accessible because the fenders are pretty wide, so not too bad on those ones. All right, so we're going to continue with body prep, get this thing ready for primer and paint. All right, so I got all my parts cut off the sprues, cleaned off, and into primer. Man, this is taking me a long time to get this thing done. I guess that's what happens when you have a full-time job and full-time family and everything else going on in the summer. A couple of things I've also done is I've got a couple of my parts into white. I am going to do a two-tone white, white and black interior. I've got those sprayed in just the Tamiya white, the seats, the bench seat in the back. So making a little bit of progress, albeit very slow. But we're ready to start, as you can see, painting some parts up, including the body. So I think we're ready for that. So I'm going to keep working on this, getting parts painted up, and then just working towards getting some assembly done. So the color I've chosen is going to be a Chevrolet teal blue with the white decals that go along with that, which is kind of why I'm doing the two-tone white interior to kind of go along with that. So that's kind of the color scheme I've chosen. So again, I'm just going to kind of keep moving ahead with getting things painted up and ready for assembly. All right, so I got the body painted up, looking pretty good. So I've also kind of been painting some of the other parts too, making slow but sure progress. So I think we're ready to put on some decals, and then we'll clear coat this thing. And then while the clear coat is curing, we'll continue with painting and assembling some of the other parts. So let's move on to decals. So I've got my warm water here on my coffee warmer. I'm going to add just a little drop, just one drop of dish soap, just to give the decals a little more lubricity. So because the decals that are going to go on the fenders are so long that I don't want them sticking too quickly. All right, and then I'm not going to use any decal setting solution right now. Once I get them applied and then get them set, maybe I'll add a little bit in there after that. But again, because these decals are so long all the way across this the whole side of the car on both sides, I want to be able to have as much time as I need to get those things positioned where they need to be before they start sticking down. So all right, let's move ahead with some decals. All right, that actually went on really well. I was a little nervous about those tearing because they're so long, but those actually went on really smooth, a lot smoother than I thought they were going to. All right, so I've got a couple other badgings to put on, so I'm gonna go ahead and put some of those on and then let these decals dry up completely before I clear coat. I don't want any moisture underneath the clear coat when I apply that, so I'm gonna finish getting these decals on and then keep moving ahead. All right, so I got the rest of the decals applied with the badging and a couple of the door locks, things like that. So we're ready for some clear coat, but I let these decals dry up. But before we get some clear on it, I want to make sure that I've got any residue or anything, any other fingerprints or anything cleaned off the surface of the car before I spray it. So I'm just going to go over it with some wax and grease remover just to make sure that I don't have any extra surface contaminants in the way before I put this clear coat on. So I'm going to do that real quick and then we're going to put this clear coat on. So I'm going to be using this 2K clear coat from Spray Gunner. This is just our no-name brand 2K clear. So I'm going to get this thing cleaned off and then we'll go get 3 coats of clear on this thing and see where we're at. All right, so I got 3, maybe 4 coats of clear on here. I've got some dust in there that like I said, I always get dust in my clear coats, so I'll have to be sanding and polishing that out. But overall, that is looking really nice. So I think that'll do it for this video. I'll get this thing pushed out so you guys can see what I've been working on since it's been a while. But so far, I'm really liking Revell's 1971 Olds 442, the W-30 kit. The detail on it is really great. I'm liking the decals. Like I said, I'm impressed on how well they went on. I just really am enjoying this kit. So I'm going to get this thing finished up and sent out for you guys, and then make sure you stay tuned for part 2. So that'll do it for this one. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one.